The Thunder is in a 2-0 hole. Welcome to Thunder Thursday, sponsored by our friends at Charleston's. Go have dinner at Charleston's, watch the playoff games, have a drink, and cheer on the Thunder against Portland because they need it. Guys, I'm here with Eric Horn and Maddie Lee. Did not go well in Portland, guys. 2-0, Portland lead. Game 1 was close. Game 2 was a blowout. Eric, what can the Thunder do to get this series back on track?
Make a shot. Just one. Oh, no, guys have got to make shots. Westbrook, Schroeder, Jeremy Grant are combined 1 of 26 from 3 in the first 2 games. That kind of spells a lot of why the Thunder's offense is struggling so much. And I know people out there are saying, they need to take less threes. And look, when they don't take threes, they're doing pretty well. They're taking advantage of Enes Kanter. People saying he's got to go after Kanter more. You got to go after Kanter more. They played Kanter off the floor in game 2. But look, they've still got to make more layups at the rim. They missed a lot of easy stuff. They've got to make some threes. You can't allow C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard to make as many threes as they're making and not be able to counteract that with some shooting of your own. So I'd expect the Thunder to play better, or at least shoot better when they come home for games 3 and 4. Players typically shoot better at their home court. And look, Jeremy Grant's been a 39% three-point shooter all year. He hasn't made one so far in 2 games. I wouldn't expect that to continue in the next couple of games, and that's going to help the Thunder, to be able to get a little bit of relief, just making some three-point shots outside of Paul George.
Maddie, when you look at what we've seen out of the Thunder in those 2 Portland games, what gives you optimism that it can change? Eric talked about the home court, and teams do play better at home, but is there a reason for optimism that it can turn around?
I think what Eric said, and that, they need to make a shot, the likelihood that they will keep shooting like 15% from 3 in game 1, the likelihood that will continue, pretty slim. You've seen some good things from Russell Westbrook, more so in game 1. He was playing really well. Game 2 had some issues. There have been hints here and there, but if the guys who really, Ferguson played C.J. McCollum really well all year. He's been fouling way too much, and when he has been on the court, his defense has not shut him down nearly as much. If you see those guys step up to at least close to their potential that we saw during the regular season, great for the Thunder. Also, Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum likely won't be shooting as well as they did, especially in game 2 for the entire series. They're making some incredible shots, which, we'll probably still see some 30-foot threes from Damian Lillard in game 3 and 4. But the likelihood that there'll be as many as we saw early on in the series, probably not quite as likely.
I wrote about this for today's Oklahoman. Whether or not Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum cool off, the Thunder just doesn't have the shot makers right now to go toe-to-toe with those 2 guys. Paul George is probably the one guy you can count on to be able to create his own shot and get a shot off if it's not at the rim. You rely on Russell Westbrook to get to the rim and be explosive in that regard, but if he can't get to the rim, he's not a guy who can create a mid-range shot right now. He's not a guy who's going to be proficient enough to hit a three-pointer off the dribble the way that C.J. McCollum and Damian Lillard can. Dennis Schroeder's shown some success getting into that mid-range and hitting that jump shot from the elbow, but he's also a guy who gets his shot blocked at the rim a lot. He's a guy who's not great from three-point range. So you're really playing, in terms of just pure shot makers, you're playing 2-on-1 when it comes to the Paul George versus Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum battle. And frankly, Paul George might be, he might be half the guy he is right now. He was efficient in game 2, but he struggled in game 1, and you don't know what you're going to get from Paul George on a night-to-night basis. So right now, the Thunder's in a tough spot if they can't match the shot making of Damian Lillard and C.J. McCollum, particularly if they can't stop those guys from making the 3 the way that they are.
The Thunder from three-point range in Portland went 5 of 33, and we said no way can they shoot that bad again, which was true. They went 5 of 28 in game 2. 2 worst shooting percentages from 3 all season, those 2 games in Portland. The fewest three-pointers made all season in those 2 games in Portland. Is that a byproduct of just a bad shooting by a bad shooting team? Or does, in a playoff series, can teams really pounce? Time to game plan, time to scout, time to really make adjustments. Can a team pounce on a deficiency like that and exasperate the problem, Eric?
It's a mixture of things to me. I don't think Portland's a great defensive team. I just think the Thunder's missed a ton of open shots. They're playing to their identity. Westbrook has double-digit assists in each game, and frankly, he should have more because some guys are just missing open shots. You don't expect Jeremy Grant to go 0 of 8 in the first 2 games from three-point range. He's been a 39% three-point shooter all season. So I think some of it is the Thunder just missing open shots. I think some of it's shot selection here and there. You've got times where Westbrook or Schroeder probably should pass up that three-pointer, make an extra pass to get a guy a shot. But there have also been times where they have made that extra pass and guys have just missed shots. So I think it's a little bit of both when it comes to the three-point range for the Thunder. But more than anything, I don't think it's Portland doing anything special. They admitted it to us in Portland. They didn't do anything particularly special in game 1. They weren't happy with the amount of shot attempts from 3 that they gave up. They thought they gave up too many to Paul George. The Thunder gets up 28 in the game 2. Now look, that might be Portland playing some mind tricks and saying, oh, we gave up too many three-pointers to the Thunder. We got to give up fewer. And the Thunder might be thinking, oh, well, if we get a bunch of three-pointers up, maybe we can get some good looks. Maybe they're playing some mind games there and hoping the Thunder takes the 3 more. But look, there are a lot of people out there who don't like the Thunder taking a bunch of three-point shots. They won't have to if they stop Portland from making theirs. And if Damian Lillard's making it from 30 feet, it's going to be hard for the Thunder to keep up with their twos because, frankly, the Thunder's not good at making two-point shots either.
Well, Matty, he makes a great point. Eric had a good note, I think it was in today's paper. The Thunder ranks in the 20s out of the 30 NBA teams, three-point shooting, two-point mid-range, at the rim, and foul shooting. They can't really make it from anywhere. So how do you win a series when you can't shoot from anywhere? What's your options in winning a playoff series?
Well, all year, their solution to that has just been take more shots. So get those offensive rebounds, make sure that you're getting out in transition, giving yourself the best chance to score. Can they do that against this Portland team? They're going to have to play really, really shut down defense, especially on that three-point line. Like Eric said, if the Blazers are making the 3 and the Thunder aren't, they really don't have a path to win. And so it all comes down to defense. It all comes down to grabbing those second chance points, really optimizing those once they do get those offensive rebounds, and just trying to create as many shots as they possibly can because the numbers are not in their favor.
Well, it's a massive problem. Let's talk about what the Thunder has done right. What'd you like in Portland, Eric? What'd you see out of the Thunder that you liked?
Frankly, I like the way that they adjusted from game 1 to game 2 in terms of getting on the defensive glass. Enes Kanter and the Blazers killed them in that first quarter, and the Thunder just can't play from behind. And in that first quarter in game 1, the Thunder, was out rebounded, I think 14-9, somewhere in that range. Kanter had 6 putbacks. He had 8 rebounds total in that first game in game 1 in the first quarter. The Thunder just can't allow that. And they did a better job of defensive rebounding against him. And they did a better job of playing him off the floor, essentially, in game 2. I thought they attacked him well in both games, to be frank. It just comes down to a matter of if you're not stopping the three-point line, that's going to just exacerbate, your offense. And your offense has to be perfect, essentially, from 2 because the math just doesn't work out then. If you're giving up threes and you're not making 2-pointers, then the other team is going to score more points than you. So I thought they did a good job of attacking Kanter in game 2. They got him off the floor more. He was a non-factor in game 2. Adams has been efficient in terms of his scoring. There are going to be people who want them to go to Adams 20 times a game. That's just not his game. Like he's got to expend a lot of energy on defense. They're not going to be able to post this guy up and attack Enes Kanter on every possession. And sometimes when they do, they're not going to get a bucket out of it because Adams just isn't that efficient. And he's going to miss some shots too. Westbrook's missing open shots at the rim. The Thunder as a collective has to be better offensively. And, they were better in game 1 than they were in game 2, but they got to improve. And but the defensive rebounding I thought was better. That's probably one of the lone bright things I can speak to in terms of their improvement from game 1 to game 2 in Portland.
Similar question, Matty, only let's make it personal. Who did you like in Portland on an individual basis?
Let's see. In game 1, I liked Russell Westbrook. I think he did a fantastic job, especially on the night when they really needed him to because Paul George was as he said, his first time shooting since before that injury. And so really good job picking up the slack there. Second game, Paul George kind of got a shooting rhythm back, which is really encouraging for the Thunder because they need him to be healthy, and he keeps saying that he's pain-free and that it's a rhythm problem, not a pain problem with his right shoulder now. They need that to be true, and they need him to be able to put up numbers efficiently because, like we said before, you have Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum shooting extremely efficiently, especially from three. And so you need, in the playoff series, you need your two best guys to be better than the other team's two best guys, and right now that has not been the case.
Well, it's a situation where Portland won 53 games during the regular season. Thunder won 49, but everyone was optimistic going into the playoffs because of Nurkic. The injury to Nurkic seemed to give the Thunder a big advantage in the paint. And Steven Adams has played well. To me, he's been the best player for the Thunder collectively through 2 games. How, Eric, do you think the Thunder is taking advantage of Nurkic's absence, or maybe not at all?
Well, I mean, I think they're actually getting some good looks. I mean, they've scored 52 points in the paint in each game in terms of getting into the paint. And Nurkic is a pretty good defender. He's better than Enes Kanter. There's going to be this complaint that like the Thunder's not attacking Kanter enough, and I think it gets exacerbated when they're playing against or Kanter's playing against teams, for instance, that can hit those mid-range shots or those 3-point shots over them, and you're not going to the rim every time like the Thunder or people think the Thunder should be doing. Look, they're scoring 50 points a game in the paint. Eventually you got to make some shots from the perimeter to be able to balance that out. And if the Thunder's not doing that, then I don't know what hope there is for them in this series. They're doing the best they can, I think, in terms of just attacking the paint. When they get there is a question of the finishing. Russell Westbrook's got to finish. Paul George did a better job in Game 2 finishing and getting some contact. Guys like Steven Adams. Steven Adams got going in the second half, even though the Thunder was down. They were getting some easy buckets on Enes Kanter. So I think it's a matter of them kind of staying to what they've been doing offensively, and a matter of guys making more shots. Jeremy Grant's got to make more. Dennis Schroeder's got to be better. Dennis Schroeder got to the line a little bit, in Game 2. And big one for the Thunder, which I totally forgot about, is just don't turn the ball over. They start the third quarter with 5 turnovers in their first 8 possessions. Maddie was talking about how they've got to take a bunch of shots because they're not a great shooting team. That's true. You can't take shots if you're turning the ball over before you even get into a set. Paul George is dribbling down low and he turns the ball over in consecutive possessions. Dennis Schroeder getting stripped by Damian Lillard, and that leads to a run-out 3 for the Blazers in transition. So the Thunder has to take care of the ball because they're just not good enough offensively to make it up with 3-pointers if they're not taking care of the ball and getting the 2-pointers and getting the shots at the rim and getting the second chance opportunities they need to get because they're just not a good shooting team.
Maddie, one of the things I sort of liked out of the Thunder in Portland is what we thought was a weakness. The bench actually played pretty good. Yeah. And I don't mean Schroeder necessarily, but Markieff Morris, Raymond Felton, Nerlens Noel. Both games, when those 3 guys were on the court, they more than held their own. And that's not been the case through much of this season. Can the Thunder bank on those guys sort of continuing to be effective when they're on the court?
Well, when you mention not necessarily Schroeder, that's a huge part of it. For them to be able to, usually bench is having good, as of late, they have had some games during the regular season where everyone really stepped up and the bench was looking really good and kept the starters in games. But as of late, when you saw those bench numbers creeping up, often that was because Schroeder was putting up 15, 20 points. But when Schroeder is not shooting well and you have those other guys stepping up and getting, good plus minuses, that's good. But playoffs, when you have shortened rotations, you can't rely on those guys. Those guys just have to be the guys who are there to hold the fort, and you need your starters and really that first 6, so including Schroeder, to be able to put the games away because the bench just isn't getting enough minutes to be able to actually cause huge swings.
Well, it's trouble in paradise for the Thunder. 93.7% of NBA teams that go down 2-0 lose the series. The Thunder is trying to swim uphill. Eric, what do you expect to see in these two games? Game 3's Friday night, Game 4 Sunday night at Chesapeake Arena.
Better shooting. And look, I didn't think that the Thunder's energy was poor in games 1 and 2. I thought that they had pretty good energy, and particularly in Game 1, they make a couple more shots and they win the game. Game 2, they turn the ball over too much. I expect them to be better in both of those areas at home. I don't think they're going to have a ton of turnovers. I don't think that they're going to shoot the ball as poorly as they have. They've, like you were talking about, they've had their 2 worst shooting performances of the season in terms of the 3 in back-to-back playoff games. And that wasn't because Portland was doing anything particularly special. It's because guys were missing a ton of shots. So basically, they're going to be better at home because they play better at the peak. And I'd expect them to respond offensively a lot better than they did in games 1 and 2.
Maddie, what do you think? What do you expect to see games 3, games 4?
Well, after Game 2, we saw Russell Westbrook, which he has done before during the season, have one of those moments where he says, I'm putting this all on me. I'm going to do better. I have to do better. Seems like every time he does that, it's not just words. He does come back and has some fire and really does want to kind of prove that he can and will be better. And so I think you can expect that for this next game, that he's really going to come out with a little extra fire, a little extra bite, and we'll see how that translates onto the floor. Ideally for the Thunder, that would be for him to continue to really hone into those distribution aspects of his game and not necessarily jack up a bunch of threes. I think also when they come home, Portland knows that this is a big moment for them in the series. If they can go up 3-0, that historically has been a deficit that teams are not able to come back from. And Damian Lillard talked about it after the second game where he was saying, it's great to be up 2-0, but we know that a series hasn't really started until you go on the road. So I think Portland also is going to come in here knowing that that this could be a really huge moment, a really huge game for them, Game 3, to really put down the hammer and, for them, hopefully try to move past a first-round series like they failed to do last year. So it's going to be intense. It's going to be some good ones.
Big key with Westbrook, Maddie's right. Usually when Russell takes that responsibility on his shoulders and says, look, it's on me, he responds. In Game 2, 6 turnovers, 5 of 20 from the field. Westbrook's got to be better at the rim. He's got to be better shooting the ball, and he's got to limit the turnovers. And I think you're going to see a game plan from him where he's getting Steven Adams established early. He's going to continue to spray the ball around like he has, and he's going to be looking to get to the rim and really score at a high rate. One thing we didn't mention about Westbrook, in the first 2 games, he's 11 of 11 from the line. He's hitting his foul shots. So I think this is a guy that's going to be looking to be aggressive, get to the free throw line, and continue that good stretch of free throw shooting that we've seen from him so far in the playoffs.
Well, it's a certainly dire situation for the Thunder, down 2-0. Thanks to Charleston's for supporting the Thunder and the Oklahoman. Stay tuned for further Thunder coverage here on News OK and every day in the Oklahoman.